This is Ringside Radio, your ringside ticket to some of the finest wrestling talk around. And now, here are your hosts, Grim Chorizo, Katrina Cena, and Sloppy Joe!
Hey everybody, welcome to Ringside Radio, the best wrestling podcast in the world! Well,
better than Chris Jericho's podcast. Better than Colt Cabana.
Oh yeah. If only we could get a few more people to listen to it. We're talking to you. Okay, so I'm Grim Chorizo, joined with Sloppy Joe and Katrina Cena, and we are here to talk about wrestling. And it is October, so we're calling this I'm calling it, the Halloween edition, even though there's only so much you can talk about that's related to Halloween and wrestling, you know? So yeah, also, last weekend, we went to what I would say is a wrestling fan bucket list kind of thing. Something you want to do. Go to the Squared Circle restaurant. And we did it. What'd you guys think about it?
I thought it was really good. Food was good.
And what did you get?
A lot of food.
What did you order?
I got like a Kentucky bourbon pork sandwich, and it was good, except for it had mashed potatoes on it, which was very interesting. It wasn't bad, but I don't know if I would get it again. But the food was good, though, so.
The Kentucky bourbon pulled pork with mashed potatoes on it. I don't think I've ever heard of a sandwich with... I mean, I was sitting right there when you got it, so that was the first time I heard of it.
Yeah.
But mashed potatoes on a sandwich.
It was good.
Interesting.
But I think mashed potatoes would have been better on the side.
Yeah. Katrina, what you think about the Squared Circle?
I will say I was surprised by the size of it. It was kind of just like a storefront type of thing, like attached to a bunch of other buildings. And so I was surprised by how, I guess, kind of small it was. But it was a really unique atmosphere. There was like wrestling memorabilia on the wall and autographs of wrestlers who have been there, including Paige, among others.
Yeah, mainly Paige. But.
Grim was kind of excited about that.
Yeah.
I thought the food was like spectacular. So it was more than like what I ordered was more than any like two people needed. So it was really good.
Yeah, I was surprised also by the size because I don't know, I just figured it'd be bigger, but I'm not complaining because it was actually pretty nice. While we were there was practically nobody there, which was nice because we could just kind of sit wherever. They had the WWE Network on, of course.
For just $9.99.
Yeah, first person we see as we walk in, I remember Chris Benoit and Randy Orton on the screen. I was like, oh, Chris Benoit. So,
and of course, during the course of our dinner, we got to see the boogeyman eat the growth off of Jillian's face.
Yeah, that just...
And the guys sitting at the bar were just laughing obnoxiously.
Yeah,
you gotta watch this! Everybody watch this!
It's like, yeah.
They may have had a few adult beverages before we had got in there.
So,
it was 5 o'clock somewhere.
The food I got had, I think it was...
After 5.
Out of all the sandwiches I've gotten places, that may have had the most amount of bacon on it at once.
I think it was more bacon than burger.
It was insanely bacon-tastic. So much bacon, but...
Much bacon.
And it had JR's barbecue sauce on it, which is something I've always wanted to try. So that was really good.
And it was exceptional, I thought.
Oh, yeah. It was like a slobber knocker. It was...
It was like a slobber knocker to your face.
That's all I got. But it was really good. Glad we...
I am glad we went. The part I liked about it was just kind of like a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
Like...
It was.
If you weren't looking for it, you would walk right past it.
Yeah.
Like Jerry literally did. My brother Jerry literally did walk right past it.
He's like, wait.
He's like, well, it's got to be somewhere, and I'm like, dude.
The three of us are stopped in front of the door, and he's just walking. I'm like, should we tell him or should we just wait for him to figure out that we stopped?
Yeah.
So yes, apparently you can walk right past it and not know it's there.
Yeah. So basically, if you've never heard the Squared Circle, restaurant owned by former WWE women's wrestler Victoria, TNA, Knockout, Tara. And she wasn't there that we know of. But
if she was doing a great job hiding.
But yeah, it was really good. Definitely suggest it if you're a wrestling fan. And glad we got to experience
Even if you're
that.
not a wrestling
Thanks
fan,
to
you should
Katrina.
still go check it out because it's good.
Yeah, that's true. If you want some good food with some cool names like Follow the Buzzards and I don't remember.
They had like a JR's burger or something.
The Follow of the Buzzards actually had alligator sausage on it. I'm not exactly sure what that was.
I was actually tempted to get that.
I wanted to just because of the name, but then if I didn't like it, it's like, shit.
I'm out $15.
This was the $15.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Daniel, on a hard-fought victory.
It's about Halloween now. And I remember last year, it's worth noting that we've been doing this podcast for a year now. We started it last October. And I remember on one of our newer episodes, it was around Halloween, we talked about some of the creepier, spookier characters and gimmicks in WWE. So, Schloppy, when you think scary characters in the WWE or pro wrestling, who comes to mind?
I mean, I think the obvious one's probably the Boogeyman. But besides him, I remember watching when I was younger, seeing Umaga on the screen and thinking he was pretty scary. I don't know if he was necessarily supposed to be like a scary, gimmicky guy, but
he's probably supposed to scare you.
Yeah, but he legitimately scared me. I go back and watch now, like now the thing is, man, he was a great wrestler, but yeah, he was pretty scary.
Obviously, the Boogeyman, like Schloppy kind of referenced.
I'm the Boogeyman.
But that was something that didn't scare me personally, but I think it would have if I was a kid when that was going on. Because he was just creepy and weird and who eats worms. I'm just not sure.
Ate things off people's
about that.
faces.
And yes, things off people's faces too. But one that, again, that never really personally scared me, it maybe would have if I was younger, but Kane. Because, I mean, obviously Kane's supposed to be scary. And he debuted when I was like 10, so I guess I was fairly young. But I just remember when they were doing the storyline that he'd been like badly burned in a fire, so he wrestled in like a full body suit, and he would like use this thing and hold up to his neck to talk, and that was just weird. And you couldn't help but kind of feel a little uneasy, if nothing else. And then when he unmasked, it was just scary, even though it didn't. Even though it's all storyline, it was kind of scary. But one that actually did scare me as a kid was Papa Shango. Because it's just weird, like the witchcraft stuff, the voodoo stuff was just really strange, and he looked scary, and yeah, I was pretty scared of him. I'm not gonna lie.
I was trying to just rack my brain and think of ones that either were supposed to be scary or ones that actually came across as scary. I think one of the ones that has stood the test of time, obviously, he might not be as much scary now, but he was meant to be a scary character, was The Undertaker. I mean, he's one of those characters, so you can talk about him so much, but he's had the same gimmick per se, but it's been tweaked so many times. I mean, he basically started out as, like a zombie, kind of. And that's why they call him the Dead Man. When they show those camera shots of the old, and you were probably watching at the time when Undertaker, was actually new, and when they show the camera shots of kids, they're actually legitimately look frightened of the Undertaker. And
if I can interrupt, because I was a kid at the time, I always thought the Undertaker was just, I always thought there was like, I don't know, I wasn't scared, because to me there was just like this mystique, almost like a reverence. But the thing that creeped me out was way back in the day with the urn and Paul Bearer and all that, they would show what they called creatures of the night, and there were people in the crowd that looked like corpses. They were like made up, like tons of makeup, and they would just stare and they didn't move. And it was really, really weird. And I just remember being so uneasy about that. Now, The Undertaker never scared me. I thought he was like just this incredible presence. But the as they called them, the creatures of the night, just freaked me out. Because they just looked like dead people just sitting in the seat. Like they'd be in the front row. And I know, there were plans. But it was just very, It was weird.
I actually don't think I've ever heard of it.
Oh my gosh.
So
I'll have to dig up some
associated
footage.
With Paul Bearer? Were they associated with The Undertaker?
When The Undertaker came out, they would show them. And they would reference them as the creatures of the night.
That's pretty awesome. I don't think I've ever actually seen that before.
I'll have to see if, hey Mom, I know you're listening. Do you remember this? We got to talk about this.
Some other guys that haven't been mentioned yet that came to mind for me, a very recent one, is the Wyatt family.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's nothing like them. It's now in a world where basically the main characters are just kind of people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You have to have those kind of throwback guys. And these guys, I mean, they're pretty creepy. They really are, especially with the videos they've been showing recently. I think that's some of the scariest stuff that they've shown. Because it looks like they're splitting or something, but the videos they've been showing, especially with, like, the pregnant belly that says it's coming and, like, sin and stuff, like, that's legitimately creepy.
Yeah.
Doink the Clown could be scary to some. I mean...
There's people out there who
like
hate clowns.
I mean, really? He could? I think that he was... Did he start off as, like, a good clown or a bad clown? I don't remember. Either way, if he started off as a bad clown, it's obvious they were going for... Everybody hates... Well, not everybody, but people hate clowns. We can get a cheap... Because there are some people who are deathly afraid of clowns.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad... That'd probably be one of the...
he's definitely like a bozo looking, like a cheesy looking.
Yeah, he's
clown.
not like
not like a Joker or.
Yeah, he does look like a cheesy clown.
There's an indie guy in the Chicago area that wrestles as Yabo the clown, and
He's scary.
he does such a good job because he is scary. I'm not afraid of clowns. I'm a little creeped out by him, but when I see him, I just
It's like, nope.
I have a picture I got of him at the show we went to last Friday, and it is downright terrifying.
Yeah.
It really is. And he's just
like,
standing there, but he's looking at the camera, and he's just terrifying.
The thing I find creepy about the picture is he's standing next to, I don't remember the
Joey
guy.
Marks.
Yeah, and he's such a tiny guy. It looks like he's like carrying him to the back to go do things to him.
Another one that, well, I guess it's a few. Gangrel and the Brood, I would say that they have a creepy kind of vibe about them. Nowadays, vampires are like, you know, like
a
more
thing.
like a cool kind of thing. But they still have one of the coolest entrances
Yeah.
ever. And I mean, a dude who like drinks blood and would do blood baths and stuff. That's just, I mean, that's Halloween-tastic. That's like one of the most Halloween things when I think of WWE is Gangrel.
Well, and when you like say that thing about like the vampires or whatever, it brings another one to mind. Kevin Thorne.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I really liked Kevin
My mom
Thorne.
just screamed listening to this. Kevin Thorne was cool.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think we all like him.
Yeah, well, that brings me to another name, same person, but before that he played Mordecai, which
was really weird.
I thought it was, like, cool, but it didn't last any, like, it didn't get much of anything. Like, that's one of those names that most people would probably be like, wait, who?
Almost like the Kazarni type of thing.
Yeah, really, like Kazarni, because...
Well, and a lot of wrestling fans that I've just randomly talked to and we've gotten into conversations have been under the false delusion that Matt Capitelli played him.
Kazarni?
Yeah, no, not Kazarni.
Oh,
Mordecai. Yeah, like more than one
pretty
person has said that.
big?
Yeah,
And
Matt's not particularly small, but he's pretty average size by comparison.
yeah, huh.
So, but yeah,
That's-
more than one fan has said, "Oh, I thought that was Matt Capitelli," because they were like, "Oh, you like Matt Capitelli? Do you remember Mordecai?" And I'm like,
yeah, but why are you asking me that?
Yeah, exactly.
Another name that comes to mind, it's actually a former gimmick of Kane, the dentist.
Jeez.
Like, I don't
Isaac
know.
Yankem or...
Yeah, I don't know if that's
From
supposed
Decatur,
to...
Illinois.
Yeah, I don't know if that was supposed to
That's
come
too
off
weird.
as scary,
It
but...
was funny.
No one likes the dentist. No one's like,
True,
oh, yeah, I'm
that's-
so
He had the
excited.
best entrance theme ever.
Yeah.
It was just
Well, yeah, that's one of those
Just
things
kinda
where
perpetual
they're
dentist
probably
role.
like, we need another character. People hate the dentist. That's
Yeah.
you. He's like, are you kidding me? Yep, you're a dentist.
But that was back in the day when there was a clown and a dentist and a trash man.
They were occupational wrestlers.
Yeah.
Police officer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the last two I had were Jake the Snake Roberts because
Dude, his promos.
he's just like,
Well, and,
Wow.
and the fact that he comes out with a snake.
yeah.
How many people are afraid?
I can
definitely
forego the
afraid
snake
of-
because I
Well,
love
yeah.
snakes, but a lot of people don't. But his promos got, that was the thing.
It was
for
just
me.
like
wow.
frightening.
Yeah.
The things he would say, and then
And
Mankind.
his delivery, because he would just
Yeah.
just talk like this and never raise his voice. And it's people like that you just sometimes wonder what they're
Yeah.
up to.
Yeah, it was just one of the best talkers. And he looks exactly like our friend's dad. Like,
Yeah, he does.
He does.
Exactly.
Exactly.
They're, like,
Legitimately.
I swear they're the same person somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mankind was
Yep.
the last one I
Yeah,
had. As
definitely.
the Mankind character. Very disturbing and disturbed individual. Like,
And
just
he
the
would
rocking
literally
back
rip
and-
chunks of his
Ugh,
hair out
yeah.
on national TV. He would have, Mick Foley would have this huge, spoiler alert, Mick Foley and Mankind are the same
What?
person.
No
But
way!
he would just have these huge bald patches because he would sit there and rock in the corner and rip his hair out. Legitimately.
It's
Weird.
just
Well, I remember
creepy.
watching him as a kid. And for some reason, I don't know why I thought this, but I thought the mask was like permanently stuck to his face.
Oh.
Like I didn't think he could take the mask off.
Okay, well, speaking of like weird masks, this is another one that I was thinking earlier, and I was waiting for a segue, so this works. Vader. Like, for some reason, I was more like scared of him than I was of Kane.
Yeah.
And
But he was
when
in
he
Boy Meets
came
World.
out, with this, it was like this big
Oh,
like
the-
helmet shoulder
yeah,
pad
okay.
thing. It was like a mastodon. I thought that was just really that made me really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I was pretty young then, but that's another one that I remember seeing him come out in that thing and just be like, ugh.
You're here. I'm here. Let's do this.
So, Halloween is very soon. And what I want to know is, if you were going to, and you could pick any WWE superstar anytime to dress up as for Halloween, who would it be? It's not a matter of, oh, that would be really hard to make or get the stuff for. You just get to choose. Who would you pick?
I think the first one for me that comes to mind is Ultimate Warrior.
Dude.
Get the tassels and the face paint.
Well, I'm not hanging out when you're doing that one.
I know, right?
No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that'd be cool. Would you run around and
Oh, yeah.
shake everything?
Yeah, why would you not?
The face
I mean,
paint would be easily the best part. I would, yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
And you just get like the streamers.
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah.
great.
So we know what you're doing in about what? I'm bad at math. About half a month.
Yeah.
I don't even know what day it is. Well, we mentioned him earlier, but I think it would be really, really cool to be the boogeyman minus the worm eating.
No.
Oh, gummy worms
get
would
gummy
work. That
worms.
would be awesome, actually.
Actually, that's funny you mentioned that because my first or second year working at the school, one of my after school program students was the boogeyman, and he had gummy worms.
Well, they were the boogeyman. They were the
awesome.
midget boogeyman.
It was cool.
That's really cool.
He was
actually.
probably
Yeah.
second grade.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Oh yeah, mine would definitely be Shawn Michaels, because like all the elaborate stuff he used to wear would just be amazing to actually get my hands on one of those outfits, and just all the shininess and he's my childhood hero, so that would just be the coolest thing ever.
I actually, a few years ago, a friend of mine on Facebook, he had posted a picture. They were into him and a buddy went to some like Halloween party, and they dressed up as Shawn and Triple H from DX.
Oh, yeah.
And the picture that they had was them doing like the DX pose.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Well, if you're DX Shawn Michaels, that would be
Yeah.
easy. You just get a
Yeah.
DX
Well, yeah.
shirt and you're good to go. But
Well, yeah,
I
like,
mean
they had, like-
the full
yeah.
ring gear that he would
Old
used
school,
to come
yeah.
out with all the
Those
mirrors and the
glasses
metal
and-
and the glasses and the hat and the earrings that would like be like 2 feet
Yeah.
long.
Then
Like
you
that
just
would
need
just
to
be the
zip
coolest.
line into wherever
Sure.
you're gonna be.
That'd be fun.
The only problem with wrestling costumes is, let's say you were like somebody who, like Ultimate Warrior, who is for the most part is exposed.
Yeah.
Not even just because that, but if you're outside for anything, it's gonna be freezing.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
Feel-
I have a story.
Okay.
This is so worth it.
All right.
This is so worth it. Okay. Okay, so February of 2012, I went to Elimination Chamber with some friends, like last minute decision. I was meeting Seamus the day before, and they were like, hey, we're going to Chamber tomorrow. You want to come? And I'm like, sure, because when am I going to say no to a wrestling show?
Yeah.
I was already up there, so I was just going to hitch a ride with some buddies. So we get up there, and, okay, it's February. and it's in Milwaukee. So I'm in layers and I'm freezing my brains off. Not that I have very many brains to freeze off. But there's this dude, and he's being serious. He's running around in trunks as the Macho Man. He's got like the cape on and the sunglasses, and he's in these little trunks and boots. No coat, no pants,
No
and
wonder why
he
he
is
was
the freaking
running.
Macho Man. And apparently that wasn't enough because he took a Red Bull. He opened it and poured it all over himself. And it is well below freezing. And I'm just like looking at my phone, getting ready to call 911 when the site collapses. Because I'm like, you're going to die of hypothermia. Do you realize that? It was just weird. But it's one of those things that you just don't forget.
Yeah, that
would
would
be
be pretty bizarre.
April, maybe, when it's at least reasonably warm. February in Milwaukee. I'm in like a t-shirt, 2 sweatshirts, and a winter coat. And a hat and 2 hoods, and this guy's running around essentially in his underwear, pouring Red Bull on himself and twirling like the Macho Man.
So what were some things in wrestling that actually scared you? Whether it was a character like we've talked about before, a certain moment, whether it was meant to scare you or not, a spot in a match, an injury, anything like that. I mean, I could start off if you want. You mentioned, this is one thing as when I was younger. Probably 13, maybe. I know that's not that young, but that was when I was getting really, really into wrestling. There was one, you mentioned Umaga. I legitimately thought that the Samoan Spike was one of the most deadly, vicious, scary moves ever. Like, seriously. Just a thumb to the neck or whatever. Like, that, seriously, it scared me. Like,
I do remember having conversations with you about how you thought it was the most devastating move ever.
I thought it was legitimately scary when he would use that on people and the way they would sell it, and that was it. You didn't kick out of that. Samoan Spike. And the way that I can still hear JR on commentary, Samoan Spike, my God, he's out. And then when there was one, I just watched Umaga, it was versus Kamala, which is kind of weird, but it was on Raw.
That's really
And the way
weird.
he sold the Samoan Spike, that's one of the reasons it scared me so much. He was twitching.
Oh,
that. It's all in the cell, and it. That
Well,
move.
yeah,
That's
because
one of those that did it.
even the worst, and I'm not saying this about Umaga at all.
Yeah.
But even the worst wrestler in the world can
Yeah.
look fantastic if you're in the ring
yeah.
against the right person.
And that move,
Umaga was a great wrestler, by the way.
Yeah. One of the best.
I wasn't saying
it scared me.
I remember watching my first couple of actual sitting and watching ladder matches. They used to terrify me. Completely terrify me. Seeing a guy's body come in contact with a ladder, and the terrible sound it made, and depending on who was in the ring would, my degree of it would bring a varying degree of like terror, because like when it was Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, I just couldn't even stand it. I just remember just like shaking violently. I was like terrified. Like,
Why are they doing this?
I really like these guys and somebody's gonna die.
That is still, to this day, one of my favorite ladder matches, though.
Yeah, even watching The Rock versus Triple H, which I've never been a fan of The Rock, but I've always been a fan of Triple H. And just seeing their ladder match, I remember being almost equally terrified watching that as I was. So, like, it took me a while before I could get used to ladder matches.
Yeah.
And pretty much anything Jeff Hardy did was just completely terrifying.
Yeah.
Jumping off random stuff. Excessive blood, I didn't like too much. Like Cena and JBL's I Quit match.
Oh, gosh.
I just remember Cena just bleeding like a stuck pig, and me like, I was 18. I mean, so technically I was an adult, and I'm just like crying because it was just, it was a lot of blood.
A lot.
And it was, it was a lot of blood. So, yeah, things like that, I guess I'm not real big on.
Yeah, something like when you said like jumping off crazy things. One thing that I remember watching as a kid that really like scared me was Shane McMahon when he jumped off the
Oh, jeez.
the set or whatever it was.
Which time?
Well, yeah, pretty much any time, because you see that you're like, no, that's not possible for someone to do that. Now I know how they do it, but.
And for
Back
someone
then,
who's...
when you're a little kid, you're like, oh no, like you don't comprehend how they can land and not get hurt.
Yeah.
Okay. do you guys remember whenever the Dudley Boys, like Bubba Ray, took Mae Young and just powerbombed her off the stage through the table?
I don't remember seeing it, but I remember watching
Yeah,
clips.
What
seen
it.
the hell just happened? She's freaking 80 years
that's-
old. I was just like, what? I was probably 12 or 13 then, and I just, to me, like, that was over a line. I still think that was over a line. I'm not saying the Dudley Boys, but like, who does that? Who says, okay, we're going to take an 80-year-old woman and
We're going to powerbomb her. We're not just going to powerbomb
really?
her. We're going to powerbomb her off the stage. And it's
How
not just
is-
going to be off the
how
stage.
is
It's going to be off the
that
stage to a
okay?
table.
Yeah. It was
Okay.
probably her idea, though. I
There's
would not
also
be
this thing,
surprised.
the thing that scared Jim Ross the most. Frankie, this is for you. When Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie were in the dumpster.
Oh God, there's people in there.
Anyway, Joe was pushed off the stage. And Jim Ross just had a fit. Good gosh almighty, there's people in there. Thanks, JR, we got that. We got that.
What was, who was it that did that? Oh my God, like.
Joey Styles.
Yeah, well, I don't remember.
Everything?
Yeah.
Everything.
But you're probably thinking
Well, it was
of
a
the
big
Edge and
EC.
McFoley
Yeah.
thing with the table on fire.
Oh, Lord, that was
That was
terrifying.
one thing. Even going back and watching the clip now, it terrifies me. Just
Yeah.
watching Edge walk backstage, just shaking
Yeah,
like he
but-
can't, like he can hardly walk
That's a good-
backstage.
that's
I
true.
think his, in that match, just the entire match, I think his pain tolerance was definitely pushed to the limit.
Yeah.
The things they did.
That's by far one of my favorite matches, but it's hard to watch.
It is kind of...
It wasn't fun to be there, I'll tell
Yeah.
you that.
Yeah, seeing him go to the back shaking with, like, the thumbtacks still in his
Yeah,
back.
and he could barely walk.
Yeah.
Okay,
They had to,
while
like,
we're on the
carry him
topic of
backstage.
thumbtacks, one thing that made me cry harder than anything ever watching wrestling was in 2004. So again, I'm like 17 years old at this time, but at Backlash 2004, Orton and Foley, and Orton just got like annihilated on the thumbtacks, and I was horrified. It completely terrorized me. And my dad is sitting there looking at the TV and looking at me and laughing. And calling Randy Orton Spike or something like that. Like, he thought it was hilarious. I clearly did not. So he's sitting there stirring the pot because his teenage daughter is just completely, my emotions are wrecked.
Another thing that scared me, we mentioned the Great Khali. When he was a fairly new guy, I remember legitimately being like, oh my God, when he was squeezing Rey Mysterio's head.
Oh,
and blood
gosh.
was-
Yeah,
Like, I was
I remember
like, dude,
that.
that's like, stop. That's
I think we
like,
may have been watching
it's
it
scary.
together, and we were both feeling like, "Oh my God, he's
Like, I
gonna
mean,
kill Ray,
seriously,
he's
I'm
gonna
not
kill him."
afraid to admit I was a little
Yeah.
mark when I was watching. I believed it, that and it was scary to me. Umaga, his Samoan Spike, scared me.
I don't
The
think
Great
that's being a
Khali's-
mark. I mean, you're supposed to buy into what
Yeah.
they're doing.
The Great Khali smashing Ray's head and blood just coming from his, like, mouth and stuff, I mean, that scared me.
Yeah, it looked like he was like trying to pop his head like a zit or
Exactly, I was like,
something.
dude, he's going to
Yeah.
smash his head. That's probably one of, out of
Well, he did
all
that
the
to
Great
multiple
Khali. Yeah, he
people.
did, but with Ray, it was just
Yeah,
like,
the worst one was with Ray, and plus like the mask was like sliding
yeah,
up, so it made it look
that's
worse.
just one that, when I was thinking of things, I was like, what scared me? I was like, that actually kind of did. And then another one that turned out to be a whole big, it was all set up anyways, and you guys may have known right away, like, oh, that's totally fake. But it scared me while watching live when Jeff Hardy's pyro accident happened.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it legitimately,
Yeah,
was happening. And that was more recent-ish, like 2008 or 9, but just the way that they made it seem so real scared me. Because
Well, the way he
They
sold
capitalized big time on crowd shots during
Yeah,
that, too.
yeah,
And that sold it better than, not taking away from Jeff, because Jeff did a great job,
Yeah.
but I think the crowd shots sold it better than
They did.
anything else.
And even, I think it was Edge was going to have him come out for an interview or something. And the way Edge was like, like somebody who, they don't like each other,
Right.
And Edge is like, oh my gosh, that wasn't supposed to happen. And then them coming out and getting him right away and stretching him out, I was like, oh my gosh, what just happened? That wasn't supposed to happen. And then, of course, it was all story and stuff, which is good, but that scared me.
something more recent that I think probably scared all of us a little bit was Lawler when he had his heart attack.
Had that
Oh,
written
gosh,
down.
yeah.
Like, I know there's times we talk bad about him because we think he should just retire and he's getting bad, but he's still watching someone that happened on live television as someone.
That was
It just-
scary.
yeah.
That was really scary.
You guys may have been over here for it. I remember watching it in my living room.
I was
You
at
guys-
my parents'
Okay.
house.
I think I
That's
was
one of those
over
things where
watching
you
it.
do remember.
I
where you
remember
were.
my dad was watching it with me, and he's like, "Wait, what's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, that was supposed to happen."
Yeah.
And I remember just trying to feverishly look anywhere
That's
over
what I
the
was doing,
internet.
too.
Like, I need to know what's going on. Like, I mean, Raw's on, that's great, but now all I care about is Jerry Lawler's like health.
Well, and just Michael Cole's reaction to it.
Oh my gosh!
Like that's what
I
really-
I had so much
He-
respect for him the way he pulled
I
that
know.
together because I could. There's no way I could have.
It just made you want to like
because
cry
that's like
just
his
watching.
friend,
Exactly. He
It's his-
my God.
his
Mentor,
close friend,
yeah.
and he just
Yeah, that was
the
that was
not
scary.
knowing because at that point
he didn't know. If
they
he was gonna
didn't
do it.
know.
Yeah.
Well, and then when they said that they had lost him in like the ride over or whatever, that's like like oh wow.
Yeah,
This,
because they said he died.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but that was
probably most recently. That's
That
definitely
was,
one of
yeah.
the most scariest.
well
moments.
because that's
it was
as real
legit.
as
It was a
gets.
legitimate, real thing.
and the fact that
And
they
it was happening live.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is not a story. This
well,
is,
and the fact that wasn't he like just in a match like right before
He
that
was.
too?
He was in a match. It was a tag match with. I remember Ziggler was in it, Punk was in it, and somebody else was in it. And Ziggler was doing those elbows
Yeah.
to him, and that's why they always joke about like it's a heart stopper when
Yeah.
he does that to people. But yeah, he probably
'Cause that was like during the time when him and Punk were having that little
There
like,
was a- yep.
mini feud, and they did the Hell in a Cell or cage match or whatever it
Yeah.
was.
and then it happened. It's
Yeah.
just. But you're right. That is one of those things where you'll remember exactly where you were, and the day after, like just the whole night. The day after, I remember going to school. Just all I was doing was on my phone trying to find anything, an update, anything. And then when we found out, it was. I mean, that turned out. It was like a miracle, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It turned out, and he was back in like 2 or 3 months, if that, and he's back on commentary. That's just.
Yeah, I mean, and now
Crazy.
Now we all joke about it. He jokes about it, but still,
Yeah,
though,
but
it's scary.
That was one of the most recent, legitimately scary things, which I'm glad that got brought up because that was really scary.
That ladder match where Joey Mercury basically got his face ripped off.
Gosh.
Yeah. Just instant, ridiculous amounts of blood. And
That
Yeah.
was fairly early in the match too.
Dude.
Yeah, there was a
even-
lot
Yeah.
of blood.
yeah, it was very. Wow.
And then some things that I was not watching to witness, but I think even going back as a fan and watching them, they're still claimed and said to be some of the scariest things, like the Mankind Undertaker Hell in a Cell. I mean,
Yes.
how many times did they re-show that throwing him off the cell? My God, he's killed him.
He's
broken
gotta be
in half.
broken in
Yeah,
half.
that
And
like
then going through the cage.
and then through the cage.
Well, but
through the thumbtack.
I think they've said that that's a fatal fall.
Yeah.
That's a fall that could kill
Yeah.
you from that
And-
high up. So my question is, why on earth would you even do that in the first place? Why would that even be a spot? But then they did it again and again, throwing people through the cell,
Yeah.
and I just
Yeah,
don't.
that is. I mean, obviously, I wasn't watching.
Shock value is one thing, but putting someone's life at risk or
and
putting
that
someone's
match
well-being
is
at risk
the
is
example
just-
of it. Just everything about it is like, oh God, why are they doing that? At the Royal Rumble 1999, it was The Rock versus Mick Foley, and there was the part where Foley takes like over 15 unprotected chair shots to the head. A lot of people say that was one of the most scary things for them to watch, and I think Foley's kids were like right in the.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I don't know what part of that was a good idea. I'm really not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why.
Hey,
either,
kids,
Mick
so-
Foley is like one of the best dads ever, but I really question his dad judgment on that.
Yeah. It'll be all right. Psh, ow, psh, ow. No.
I mean, that was no, just
Too
no,
much.
way too much. Actually, a year later, the Royal Rumble 2000, I believe, Foley and Triple H had a match, and I remember they were all over the building, and Triple H got like backdropped onto one of those wooden pallets, and it broke and punched a hole in the side of his calf,
Oh.
and you just see the blood running down, and I was just like, ugh.
Pretty much anything with Foley is scary because you know he's gonna do something stupid.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and that obviously wasn't meant to happen, but
Yeah.
the pallet just kind of broke, and Yeah.
And I'm sure that probably was meant to break.
That could have
but-
been really bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was bad. Brian Pillman pulling the gun on Stone Cold.
Oh.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
That was just crazy.
Because that's like not something that. you
Again,
ever
too
see.
real.
Yeah.
Very real.
And then with Undertaker, when he started doing the ministry stuff, like at WrestleMania 15, he like hung the Big Boss Man after the Hell in a Cell or whatever.
And we were watching.
Oh yeah, dude.
That was probably
And we
pretty.
were
That
watching
was
that.
yeah. I saw that live. I was very scared.
Yeah, I can imagine that being.
And we were watching on the network the other day when he like hung Stephanie or whatever.
Oh yeah, he was trying to. Like,
That's
sacrifice
I watched that live too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Too much. So yeah, some things.
They
were
did
a
some
little
pretty
too far.
dark
they
things. During
But that was
era.
the times. That
Yeah.
was the era. So yeah, I get it. There's this other one. This is kind of obscure, but I remember being terrified by it. There was like this thing. Okay, I'm gonna be really bad at describing this.
So it's me at Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
There's the thing.
Yes.
You guys did this thing.
It's like I can't.
It's not
help
called
you.
a box,
I
though.
can't help you there.
Okay, Stone Cold and Triple H were feuding. And there was this, it was on Raw, I think. And basically, like, Stone Cold, like, let a snake into Triple H's dressing room or something like that. And you see it strike. Now, if you watch closely, you can see a very subtle reflection of the snake. Like, there's glass between Triple H and the snake. But it was subtle.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see, and Triple, in the face.
Mm-hmm.
And Triple H just sells it like freaking gold. And then they like had his face all wrapped up, and you can see there's blood and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Which really a snake bite. I mean, a puncture would probably would bleed pretty badly.
It would
so,
bleed, but it wouldn't like be
but
gushing. or
right on his
anything.
face. And then the next week he shows up with this horrible, like horribly elaborate makeup, like on his face of like a snake bite. Might not have even been the next week. But then it turns out he just, I swear this happened, guys. This is weird. But I swear he just like peeled it off and it was like not real. For real. Like it was all like, he was all like, blah. I don't know. It was just like him being a jerk, like he fooled everybody and he wasn't bitten by the snake or whatever.
Huh, that's weird.
I don't know. I legitimately remember that though. And I remember being really scared about that.
That is really obscure.
It is. Like, I'll have to, like, look it up or something because it really did happen. But it was scary to me at the time. But yeah, the Macho Man getting bitten by the snake when he's tangled in the ropes and the kids and the women crying in the audience and stuff.
Yeah,
that really,
that's pretty.
that really
messed
did
up.
look really scary.
Well, and didn't they say that wasn't supposed to happen?
It had to have been supposed to happen.
Well, I
mean-
feel like I read somewhere that they said it wasn't like.
Pretty sure Jake the Snake wouldn't just do that.
Well, I know. But
Cameron Naomi. Oh, shucky ducky. Check this out right here. Quack, quack. What is wrong with you?
So we're gonna play a little game. Bring a new segment to Ringside Radio called Push, Bury, Fire. We're gonna say 3 people, and the others have to choose 1 to push, 1 to bury, and 1 to fire. It can be pretty difficult, but it's kind of fun.
well, I guess I'll start with one. We'll start with some NXT guys. We'll go Adrian Neville, Tyler Breeze, and Sami Zayn.
Are you serious?
You would do that.
I don't want to play this. You want to jump on this one, Grim? Because I certainly
Okay.
don't.
I will... Okay, I'm going to preface this by saying I love all 3 of these guys, but I'm going to play the game, and if any of you 3 are listening out there, there's nothing personal. I just have to do what I have to do
If
here.
any of those 3 are listening out there, we're pretty cool.
So, okay.
All right.
I fire Adrian Neville. Now that sucks. Then I'm going to push Sami Zayn. And sorry, Tyler. Well, actually, I mean, you still have a job. But I'm going to bury Tyler Breeze because people similar to him, you could say, as far as gimmick-wise, have... I think he can bounce back from it. I'll just say that. And Sammy, I can't do anything with him but push him.
Mm-hmm.
And then Neville, kind of the same thing, but I think he could still do some pretty awesome stuff anywhere, you know.
Yeah, on the indies.
I'm so sorry, Neville. Of course, before I fire him, he wins the world title.
Yeah, I don't think it works that way. Katrina, what do you say?
Jeez. Push Sammy because Sami Zayn.
No explanation needed.
Because Sami Zayn. Barry Neville. He'll come back from it. He'll be fine. Because he's the man. And fire Tyler Breeze so I can see him at indie shows and we can take some selfies. I guess.
For
yeah,
me,
we gotta hear you.
Come on, Mastermind. This better be good.
I think I would push Tyler,
Ooh.
Okay.
Fan of the gorgeous one.
bury Sammy, just because
I almost buried Sammy because he's such a good underdog.
he's such a good underdog, and the fans love him so much that it's gonna be like the whole Daniel Bryan thing. They're gonna make him to the top because he's so awesome. And fire Neville.
What's up with you guys firing Neville? Come on.
There's nothing against him. It's just I think I like the other
Something
two
against
a little
him. I have
better.
to choose.
We just want him to get fired.
This is a difficult.
Nobody
No,
did
I'm
fire-
kidding.
Nobody
Nobody's-
did fire Sam.
Nobody's getting fired.
Well, so Sammy's safe.
I did. I'm with Swappy though. I did almost bury him because he plays such a good underdog.
Yeah. So here's mine. Daniel Bryan, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose.
Whew. Gonna push Dean. Because I think... I know. I'm gonna push Seth. Because out of all of them, I think he will need it the most, even though he doesn't really. Bury Dean and fire Bryan. Because Bryan's held the world and the WWE title, and he's had a pretty good run, so... Yeah.
You would have a whole arena going, no, no, to you right now, just so you know.
I understand that, and I would be doing that myself if that were ever to happen. But yeah, he's older than the others, and he's had a pretty good run with the WWE. So that's what I'm gonna do.
I guess bury Bryan because it's not like he hasn't been buried before, or at least attempted to. He's already been fired too, so there's nothing he hasn't been through in all this. Bury Bryan, push Rollins, fire Ambrose.
Ooh, but you won't be able to see Dean's face.
I don't know why you're oohing because you just fired Bryan.
I know.
So I mean, I'm just saying. Yes, I would because he would take indie bookings.
True.
Then I could marry him. Okay, that's a long shot.
I would actually do the same as Sloppy because, like he said, Bryan has done more. He's older. He's already sustained more injuries than the others. And I think he could still be considered a legend and Hall of Famer with what he's already accomplished, where Rollins I would push because, as he said, I think Ambrose could already, with fan support, could find himself in any fine situation. Mm-hmm. And Rollins, I mean, the same could be said about Rollins, but I think he's Triple H's boy, you know?
Mm-hmm. And people are behind Dean more.
Especially if he's working as a heel, I mean, gotta push him. So, I actually agree with you, Schloppy.
Wade Barrett,
Okay.
Dolph Ziggler,
Okay.
Cesaro.
Ooh.
Shit.
Man.
I was gonna say Rollins, Reigns, Ambrose, but that's too similar to one we just did.
I'm going to push Cesaro with a brand new theme song, a brand new entrance attire,
Yes.
and yeah, well, I'll just say this. I'm afraid I got some bad news for you, Barrett. You're going to get buried, and I got even more bad news for you, Dolph Ziggler. You're going to get fired. Kind of goes back to that, like what you've already done kind of thing. Ziggler has, although not been the greatest reigns or anything, he's been here for a long time, since at least 2006.
It's actually crazy to think how long he's been
Yeah,
here.
he's really been here a long time. He's held the world title. He's held multiple titles. I definitely want him around, but Barrett and Cesaro, I still think, are not even close to what they are going to achieve. Pushing Cesaro because, I mean, I love Barrett, but Cesaro right now is not in the greatest situation. I mean, right now he's actually kind of okay. He's in the Intercontinental title scene, but he deserves that
more,
push.
yeah.
And Barrett, I mean, the only reason I'm burying him is because I had to pick one to push and pick Cesaro. And he could still get bad news and do stuff while not doing much.
Remember when that's what got him over?
Exactly. So he could be
mean,
doing that, and then he'll eventually get his push. So that's what I say.
Alright, so for me, I also have some bad news for Dolph. I'm going to have to fire him. And I'm going to push Barrett, because Barrett's awesome and he definitely deserves like a world title.
You don't want to get a bull hammer, I guess. Fair enough.
And I'm going to bury Cesaro because, let's face it, he's there anyways.
Let's just be honest.
So there's really no going any farther than where he was a couple months ago.
I'm afraid I've got some bad news. Barrett's fired.
Ooh.
And I would push Cesaro and I would bury Ziggler.
Well, Ziggler's been there before too. He's worked his way
He's
out.
been there
so-
more than most, honestly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Poor guy.
Just because I have to pick one for each.
Yeah.
This game is like really
This game is
Depressing.
demonic
torture.
and torturous.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why we play it.
What's a Halloween special? It's
It's like the Saw movies.
It might be returning, this game. So, that was Push Berry Fire, and if you're listening to this and you want to torture your friends, or you're on a really long walk and want to, like, have to think really
like
hard.
4 miles to
Yeah,
Chicago.
4 miles to be exact.
You can play this game.
We might have just experienced that
We
recently.
will maybe bring it back sometime, because I think it's kind of fun. It's hard, though.
And if you have any suggestions for a Push Berry Fire,
Ask us and we'll do it.
yeah, ask us and
Please torture us.
Yeah.
All I have to say is our partner is going to shock the world because he is none other than the Shock Master! All right! The Shock Master!
I told you. Oh, God.
It's random superstar time!
That was terrifying.
Okay.
there's a Halloween special.
I don't need to explain it. You know what it is. And the number is 43. And the superstar that is number 43 is Jeff Hardy. Take it away, whoever wants to. Jeff Hardy.
Well, I mean, he's pretty awesome. He's definitely known for being a show stealer and jumping off really high places. And I don't know, I like him a lot. I've always enjoyed watching him as a kid, and being in that triangle ladder matches were always the best watching him in. And yeah, just pretty cool guy. I always enjoyed him, so thought he was gonna kill himself, and still think he's eventually gonna kill himself doing something crazy, but
It's possible.
yeah.
He is quite the human highlight reel.
Yeah.
He's very, very charismatic. Just don't give him a microphone. Please don't give him. Please don't give him a microphone.
Yeah, he lets his work speak for itself.
Oh my gosh, that's how it should be. I'm
Outstanding!
But
Matt definitely got the
his unorthodox style was definitely something special, something that wrestling fans I think are always going to remember.
and they're drawn to it.
And he was a huge part of my adolescence because the Hardys were my favorites when I was a teenager until Cena came along. So I wish he'd been a little more committed because I would have loved to have seen him stick around and kind of ride the wave of his career all the way. But again, not something for me to really say too much about, I guess. But I think I also think he's overcome a lot of personal life obstacles, which is definitely something to be respected. So. And he hugged me at a house show once. And I screamed a lot. That was cool. Yeah, Jeff's a cool guy.
Very odd.
Very different, yes.
Yeah.
Very unique.
Definitely different.
Yeah, he should stick to being a wrestler, not a musician.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jeff, if
bring
you're
that
watching this, but band's not the greatest.
Yeah, Jeff Hardy was always one of my favorites, whether it was in tag team or singles action. I thought that he kind of stole the spotlight a little bit more from his brother because of the flashy things he did, which, I mean, he did them, so, I mean, I get, you know what I mean? Like, it's, you could probably make, I mean, like you said, the human highlight reel, you could just make a package of crazy spots, and they all could be filled with Jeff Hardy, whether it was a whisper in the wind off the top of a cage, swantons off the Raw set, ladders, no matter how tall they were, just everything was about putting his body on the line. Always.
Amazing he's still wrestling.
Yeah, the fact that he's still wrestling and still doing that stuff is just insane. He like, other than just doing those crazy spots, I mean, he puts on really good matches. He has a very... Sometimes I wonder what goes on in his brain, because he's very creative, it seems like, whether it's in the ring or, like you said, his music. I'm not a fan of it, but he makes music. He does the whole face paint thing. He has this other character.
Art sculptures.
Yeah,
and
just very...
alter egos.
It's like his personality, like, what that kind of stuff, it goes into his wrestling. It's just... And when they called the Hardys double team maneuver poetry in motion, I always thought that was very fitting. But he just... One of my favorites, so always will be. I kind of wish he, like you said, he stuck around, because I'd love to see... I mean, I know he's in TNA, but I would have loved to see him work with some of the guys in WWE now and more recent. But
Imagine working with, like, Rollins or Ambrose.
yeah, there's a lot of... But that farewell feud he had with CM Punk is still one of my favorites of his singles career. But he is one of the people, when I think of the Intercontinental title, he's one that I always think of with it. I mean, that's just a personal thing, but I always think of Jeff Hardy. So, yeah. Jeff
He
Hardy's
won
awesome.
it for the first time on my 14th birthday. I had a complete cow. Well, the taping was done on my birthday.
Yeah.
It was a Tuesday.
Was it SmackDown?
SmackDown.
That's
Yep.
pretty awesome.
So I consider that, because officially he did win on my birthday.
I don't usually use language like this, but you all should know that you people stink.
Thanks for listening to Ringside Radio. This was our Halloween special. It was full of spookiness and ridiculous
twirling of
stories
Macho
about
Man.
people dressed up like Macho Man.
And twirling.
Yeah, and twirling like the Macho Man in freezing weather. So hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. And yeah, we'd love to see your wrestling Halloween costumes. If you dare dress up like Goldust.
Or the Ultimate Warrior.
The Ultimate Warrior. And we will definitely have a video up of Schloppy dressed as the Ultimate Warrior. You
That's
can be
not
on the
gonna happen.
lookout for that.
I don't think it will be rated PG.
Yeah, that won't be happening. So thanks for listening
Rated
to
R
Ringside
for
Radio.
rolls.